All right, so it seems like we're live, guys. Tishai Breslauer, I hope you guys are well. We're starting today's CRE SharkEye show. Not officially started yet. We are, as usual, checking our connection. And if you guys are hearing me, seeing me, it's crystal. It's crisp because we had some issues with connections today. So it will be greatly appreciated if you tell me I hear you well, I see you well, and you write it down in the comments. That would be awesome before we start the show. So let me start. Let's see, LinkedIn. Are we working there on LinkedIn? Yes, let's see. Yeah. Okay, LinkedIn seems fine. LinkedIn seems like it works. Okay, cool. Okay, we're ready to start. Are you guys ready? Cool. Officially starting now. Hi, guys. This is Ishai Breslauer, the CRE SharkEye show, where we discuss commercial real estate. On Mondays, we dissect the data. We get into an asset class and we go into the data. But Thursdays, we're all tired. We love what we do, but we're tired. We want to get home. We need some inspiration. And today we have exactly that. So today our guest is Michael.ham. He is, let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff. This guy's like, forget it. He's like doing so many things. Okay, so first thing he does, first of all, we're going to talk about real estate. You're going to hear some baseball stuff. You're going to hear some podcasting because Michael.ham is the sales executive of Fidelity National Title Group, and he's also the host of the Morning Spotlight podcast. And where he focuses on real estate business. He brings all kind of interesting people into the show and all kind of diverse stuff. And he's a networker and a bomb of energy. And without further ado, why am I talking so much? Without further ado, Mike, thanks for being on this show. I really appreciate you for being here.
Of course, man. I'm excited. It's 9:30 a.m. here. I know it's a little bit in the afternoon for you over in Israel, but like I'm jacked up. I'm ready to go. Greet the LinkedIn audience. Like, here we go. Like, let's do it.
I'm already smelling the weekend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. Me too. That gets you excited. Even on Monday too, you got to smell the weekend. It's like that after effect, but you still got to power through. Every day you got to just keep powering through for sure.
Powering through and love what you do. That's the name of the game. Let me, you know what? When I'm reading your stuff, and it says here's something interesting. And he says, one second, let me just give me a second. I'm reading it. Okay. It goes here. It brings many other interesting topics. Okay, cool. It says he was interviewed. He has interviewed that's the interesting part. He has interviewed high profile members of the real estate industry and also an Olympic athlete. We're going to talk about this. That's cool. Okay. Yep. And professional sport coaches, also cool. We're going to talk about this and all that stuff and business life and all that stuff. But it says high profile real estate people. You interviewed me. Am I considered a high profile dude?
Well, sometimes you run out of high profile people and then you got to mix in some lower tier people. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, like, I love talking to people that are doing similar stuff to me. So like, I've interviewed people that have their own podcasts like you, that are also in real estate because like, I think that this type of stuff is like the new wave of getting yourself out there in the real estate world because, for a long time, speaking as a title insurance professional, like title insurance is generally a very old school industry, right? So doing something like this is a little bit like out of the norm, like outside the box. And I love people that are doing that. So you fit in perfect with what we're trying to do. Like you got the show, I love the SharkEye thing. I said it when we recorded my episode, which we'll post in a few weeks, but SharkEye is way cooler than the Morning Spotlight, just the name of the show. So like I'm already jealous. But yeah, man, I mean, the episode that we did together was just as good as any, if not better than any of the other episodes that I've done so far. So I'm super pumped for it. And it's not me. I mean, like, it's definitely not me. It's always the guests that make the show for sure.
Awesome. Same here. First of all, I'm happy to hear. And I'm really honored and happy to have you here. And you have an awesome story. And before we get into the story, because we will dive into it. It's a very cool one. But let's start with, what's going on today? What do you do today? Where's Michael.ham today? I know we're doing a podcast. Let's start with the more, I would say, boring stuff with the title insurance, as we spoke prior to starting.
Yeah.
But after all, this is a commercial real estate show. And I like to give our, first of all, you do it, and that's a business. And we want people to hear what you do. Maybe people who are hearing this are interested in that and want to hear more. So tell us a little bit about what you do today first.
Sure. So I work for, like you mentioned in your little intro there, for Fidelity National Title Group, which is the largest direct operation title insurance underwriter in the country. So I work directly excuse me, for the underwriter, I don't work for an agency, and I am a sales executive. So basically, my job is to find business. So I'm not actually the one behind the scenes putting the commitments together and that kind of stuff. But my job is to get
Right. You're
out
not the attorney and stuff like that. Yeah. Right.
right. Yeah. I'm not like the actual,
Title
attorney.
search guy. Yeah.
Right. Not a title search guy. I am just the sales guy. So,
So just that's bringing the business. We heard that without the salespeople, there's no business. But
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean, everybody's a salesperson to a certain degree, right? So like even when we have even the people that work behind the scenes are, they're interfacing with some of my clients. And so like sometimes, that's the service level. So the title insurance industry is just, I mean, many industries are, but title insurance in particular, because it's regulated here in New Jersey, is just totally built on relationships and service. So if you have good relationships, if you have good service, that's great. You're going to do great. If you don't, if one of those isn't as good as it should be, then you're going to struggle a little bit. But that's where, like everybody has to sell to a certain degree. And my just job description says like, I got to go sell. So I'm constantly like, going out to events. I mean, granted, the last year has looked a lot different, and I'm sure we'll get into that as we kind of go through the show. But I go to events, I go out for lunches, I go out for drinks, just trying to get in front of people and make sure that they know that the level of service and all that from Fidelity is going to be where it needs to be. And hopefully that they like me and they start sending some deals my way. So that's kind of, I guess, like what I do in the title insurance world. And I'm sure we can kind of, get more into it with whatever you want.
Right, exactly. But let's start with how it all started for you, because I remember you told me offline, you told me that you started as a coach. Tell us a little bit about it. What happened there?
Yeah.
What happened to you?
What happened? Yeah, right. So I went to school here in New Jersey at the college in New Jersey. 2012, I graduated. I played baseball in college, had a political science degree, did not know what I wanted to do with it. Obviously, I'm using it quite a bit, just kidding. But so graduated, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Had a semester to go in the fall to graduate because I had transferred halfway through my college career. And, we didn't have a pitching coach. I played baseball, like I said. I didn't have a pitching coach my senior year. I went into the head coach's office at the end of my senior season and said, hey, I know we don't have a pitching coach. I think I could be good at it. If you want to give me a try, I'd love to. So he's like, I'll give you a try for the fall. And if you're good, I'll keep you on for the spring. So that's what happened. Kept me on for the spring. The following year, I got a job at Franklin and Marshall College out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I was there for a year, then went up to St. John Fisher College up in Rochester, New York. I was there for like 2.5 years. I was a graduate assistant, though. So I was getting paid to coach and also having my tuition paid for to get an MBA. So I have an MBA now that I got for free, which was awesome. At the end of that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Because I had just turned 26. So now I have to actually at some point start figuring out, like, do I want to be an adult or do I want to just kind of continue down this path? And I decided that I had done some job interviews up in Rochester because I thought I wanted to stay up there. It really wasn't working out for me. And it was like one of those like life check moments. And I moved back home with mom and dad here in Jersey, got a job at an indoor sports facility as their director of operations, and was doing that for about 8 months. And it just while I liked the job because I thought it was going to be a good fit because it was marrying the two things that I wanted to do. I wanted to have a baseball side of it and I wanted to have a business side of it. And, to use my experiences so far, it just wasn't a good fit for a variety of reasons, but some things just aren't a good fit. And this was one of them. And eventually my father has worked in title insurance for 35 years. Shout out Ham, if I know he's on LinkedIn sometimes, but so he's worked in title insurance for 35 years at Fidelity. And he was like, I know we need some salespeople. We have some salespeople that just retired. Some are coming up for retirement, all that kind of stuff. We need to fill it with some people. So next thing you know, I decide I apply, I get an interview, I get the job. I started the job. I was like, what did I just do to myself? Because I didn't know really how to do my job. And I didn't know anything about, I sat for my insurance producer's exam and passed it and whatever. And he would, try to give me some tips and,
that's real life.
Right. That's real life. You jump in and you're just like, what is this? Like, what is title insurance? I mean, and then I would finally get a couple meetings early on and they'd be asking me technical questions about title insurance that I still can't totally answer, but I can answer them a lot better because I've actually done it, and it's just one of those things that like the more you do something, the more comfortable you get at it.
Exactly.
And looking back at some of those early meetings, they were just disasters. So it was more just kind of like, it's like, what that butterfly effect movie, right? So like you make certain decisions over the course of your life and eventually they get you here sitting on the CRE SharkEye show. And you just have to like look back and kind of reminisce about like what got you here. And it was just kind of a decision-making thing. Like I had loads of fun coaching baseball. Like the last year that I had coached, we went to the, College World Series. We had kids get drafted. We had some great players, some great memories, some great times, still great friends that I talk to even today. In fact, like I just, a guest spot that I had recorded that posted today on a kid that I coached on one of those teams. He has a podcast. We recorded an episode today, the Sunday Sauce podcast. So there's the plug. So if you want to hear me as a guest on that show, you can go listen to that too. But yeah, so that's kind of how, I kind of weaved my way from college baseball coaching to title insurance. I mean, at some point I just kind of like turned around. I was like, oh my God, I'm 3.5 years into this job now. So I started in August of 2017. So now it's, 3.5 years going on 4 and loving it a lot more than I did when I first started for sure.
That's amazing. And you know what, when you say, okay, we don't know, you know what, all of us commercial real estate guys, and talking about myself, I'm not going to tell all my story right now, but I got into it. And finally, even when I got to the point when we were checking deals, meaning, look, we don't know. We don't get into the details. That's why we give you guys what to do. And then eventually there's a backhand person who is an attorney who checks all the title and tells us the story. We just want to hear the story. Is it good? Is it bad? And that's what we care about.
Yeah.
Because we want the deal, or if we got to that point, we want the deal.
Right.
So that's what we want. We want to hear that everything's cool. That's it. We don't hear too many details. If there's too many details, it's not good.
Yeah.
So that's about that. Tell me something. You have this show. It's called The Morning Spotlight, right?
Yep.
How'd you get to do podcasting? How'd you get to do that?
All right. So that's going to be a little bit longer of a story, but
Go ahead.
if you want to ask me questions throughout, that's fine too.
Man. People are driving anyways. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to throw it all the way back to March of last year when something significant in the world happened. I don't know if you heard, but there was the whole pandemic thing that started in March of last year. Just in case anybody was unaware up to this point.
More than I heard, unfortunately.
Yeah.
About things that happened, and thank God I'm immune now, as we call it.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, like I said, my job is to go out with people, go out to events, go out to lunches, do things that puts me in front of a lot of people. That's the whole point of the job, is to be in front of people. Obviously, that was not something that I could do back then. Like once March happened and COVID started here in Jersey, like everything everything shut down. And so I couldn't do my normal way of doing business. So I just decided, me and a couple friends, networking friends, we decided that we were going to run virtual networking events. We were just going to start them. Like we checked out this site called Remo. We didn't really know much about it. Me and a friend were looking at it on a Monday. I was like, let's just run it tomorrow, because we're not going to wait and like see what happens. Like people just need to talk to somebody, that they need some human interaction. So we did that.
What's Remo, by the way?
It's like a networking software. It's similar to Zoom in that it's like a video chatting like interface, but you are in a room with other people and you're sitting at tables and you can kind of bounce around and talk to the people that you want if you want to like go look for somebody. So it's similar to Zoom, but you're limited in the total amount of people that you could talk to at one time, if that makes sense. So, maybe you're talking to 2 or 3, other people. And, then you can kind of like bounce to a different table and go talk to somebody else. So we checked it out. It seemed like it was going to be a platform that was going to be good for what we were going to do. Ran the event the next day. I was like, I don't want to wait. Let's just do it. So we ran the event, got 20 people to show up, which was great, with not a lot of marketing and getting it out there. Wound up doing it for 13 straight weeks after that. We would get anywhere from like 35 to 45 people usually. Every week, which was cool that we were get that level of engagement for that long. Depressing at the same time that we were able to get, that we had to do it for that long because we really didn't have much else to do. We still do that event. We just do it every other week. So it's still Tuesdays at 5. with, mostly real estate people. And it's a great event. We have a good core group of people that show up pretty much every time we run one. But what happened was I was posting about it on LinkedIn. So I know we're live on LinkedIn right now. I was posting about it on LinkedIn, tagging people that would come to the events. And I was just getting a lot of engagement on those posts. I would get, like 1,000, 2,000 sometimes views every time I would post something about those events. So I had always heard from marketing friends and all that video was a great way to get more engagement on LinkedIn. So I was like, what if I did an interview show where like I took, maybe similar to like what we're doing right now, one-on-one. It's going to be 5 minutes, just kind of like with networking partners or clients or friends that have businesses. And we'll call it the morning spotlight because it's going to be in the morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. I would post the episode and we would spotlight somebody. So very simple, the morning spotlight, TMS, right? So,
Makes sense.
So then I figured, we would go for maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. Like I figured that was going to be like the extent to what COVID was, like how long COVID was going to last. I was going to run out of content after 2 or 3 weeks, but obviously COVID did not end after 2 or 3 weeks. I started this in May. The morning spotlight started in May, did not end. I wound up going 12 straight weeks with the first iteration of the show for 60 total episodes. And not all of them were interviews. Like the first episode was just me. I did a couple blooper reels, so a couple things like that. But it was a show that was extremely scripted. So like I had an intro.
What do you mean scripted?
Yeah. So I had an intro literally typed. So I had it on my screen here on a Google Docs. I would put it right in the middle of my screen and basically read it like a teleprompter. So like I made it really narrow. This is a tip for anybody that wants to do like read something off the screen. So your eyes don't go like this. You make it really narrow and I would just read it. Right. So I would read
wait a second. So how did you do it? You put it where? On the screen you put it?
On my screen. So like I would put it directly under my camera and I would make it really narrow and really short. And I would just kind of like scroll down here. Like you can't see my hand. I would scroll and I would just kind of read as I would go, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I had an intro written out that I would read. I would even read, my name's Mike.ham and I'm a sales executive at Fidelity National Title Group. I would read that. That's my name and my job, but I would still read it because I was so uncomfortable on camera. And I would have guests and I would give them the questions beforehand. And then I would go through and I would, introduce them and I would welcome to the show and then read the questions as we would go. A lot of times people would have pre-written answers and like they'd be reading. So it's basically like videos of us reading questions and answers for 5 minutes on LinkedIn. And looking back, like, the show compared to what the show is now is like night and day difference. But the show then was just a good way to kind of get me started. But as you're a podcaster, like you put out content, 60 episodes in 12 weeks, like 5 episodes a week is a lot. And I was scheduling, recording, editing, sometimes re-recording in certain cases, posting about the videos, trying to get engagement. It was just a lot for me to kind of handle. So I decided that I was going to transition it into a more traditional podcast, which is what you see me doing right now. So we would do once a week. Every Tuesday, we would post like a business real estate focused episode. It started out as a panel format and eventually kind of morphed into a one-on-one interview. So we talk about, different topics in the real estate world. We highlight people in the real estate world, putting people in the spotlight to try to get more information about them. So that's kind of how the show kind of morphed from being virtual networking to the LinkedIn series that I would do all the way to now, which is the podcast. And today posted my 46th episode of the show. So it's been going, so altogether, that's 106 episodes of the Morning Spotlight that have posted between the first iteration and this iteration since May. So I'm really proud of that. And, obviously like the people that have come on the show have been a big part of that whole thing.
And it's an awesome show, and I recommend to everybody. Meaning, you guys gotta listen. You guys gotta listen. How do you say? It's an incredible show, really great. Not only that I've been a guest, I was honored to be a guest, but it was really great. And I want to talk about this a little bit. So it says that you have because I think that the show represents you. Who you are. That's what I figured. Because it's real estate. That's where you are today.
Yep.
And it's your background, which is, and that's what I called it. I said baseball, real estate, and podcasting.
Yep.
Basically, that's
the big three. The big three.
Exactly, the big three.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you today do the show, meaning you combine all these guests together and you bring them in, because I saw that you brought, it said you brought someone, a sports star. Tell us a little bit about that, meaning this whole
So
guest situation.
yeah, so I started the show, like when I first started the show, it was basically like an equal opportunity guest platform. So I would have anybody, it didn't have to be like the first iteration of the show. It didn't have to be real estate. It was just people that would come to the networking events. Obviously clients, most of them were real estate because that's just who I network with the most. But my friend Alan is an acupuncturist and has his own practice in Nutley. He came on and did an episode with me. Right. So like it didn't have to be specifically real estate. I kind of opened it up to everybody. But then when I transitioned it into what the show is now, I wanted the focus to be real estate. But like you said, I wanted my personality to shine through more. So as I started posting episodes, those real estate episodes, I noticed, you know, you could look at like demographics on your podcast hosting platforms. And I noticed that the listeners of my show were basically me. They were like 25 to 35 years old. They were mostly male. They were, you know, mostly in the Northeast. And I was like, well, if I'm the listener, then I could talk to basically whoever I find interesting. Right. So like I started bringing on, I think the first non-real estate guest I had on was my friend Ricardo, who owns a clothing company that helps support mental health and suicide prevention, which I think is a very important topic to talk about. So I had him on the show. Then I had an Olympic athlete on the show, Devin Harris, who's, you know, all over LinkedIn Live. And he was a member of the first Jamaican bobsled team that competed in the Olympics. They did the movie Cool Runnings based on that story, very loosely based, as Devin likes to say, but based on that story.
What was the movie? Remind me. I think I saw it.
Cool Runnings. So it was about the first Jamaican bobsled team in the Olympics. Cool Runnings.
It's like, I watched it. It's like an old movie.
Yeah. It's an old movie. I mean, I don't want Devin to feel like he's old, but you know, it's an older movie.
Yeah, he's not old. Okay.
Yeah, not old. But and then I had, I mean, one of the other first episodes I had was Hannah Huseman, who I just saw. She was doing like some mental sweat Mondays on LinkedIn. She's a mental performance coach with the Philadelphia Phillies, and like last year was named like one of the, I think she was the number 2 voice on sports on LinkedIn. She was like named that by, I forget what the platform was, but I was just like, why not? I mean, I have this platform. I like talking about real estate. I like the people that I work with. I like those types of topics, but I'm also interested in other stuff. And I have a show, like, why not have them on too? You know, and like in different ways, they provide different kinds of value to those same listeners. So it doesn't have to be like, how do you structure a 1031 exchange? It can be, you know, like, how do you, like, mental performance can kind of go across, you know, many different platforms, you know. And I mean, since then I've had a lot of different guests that I post those episodes on Thursday, just because I find them interesting. And I think my listeners will find them interesting, and, you know, why not do it? So every week, I post an episode on Tuesday that is focused on real estate, or at least like a topic that is somewhat related. So I've done marketing, I've done networking. So not directly focused on real estate, but still there. And then a lot of Thursdays, not every Thursday, but if I have an episode that I'm going to post related to something else, I'll put that on Thursday. So like this month, I've had Fitz Kohler, who's a cancer survivor, fitness expert, awesome story. Last week, I had Mitzi Purdue, whose father started the Sheraton hotel chain and whose late husband started Purdue Chicken. So just like different people that, like I said, I find interesting and that I think can provide value to my listeners, because I have a lot of fun doing this type of stuff. So if I can increase my audience by increasing my scope of guests, then I'm just going to do it.
So I think this is the beauty of it. You know what? Because there are so many podcasts out there, right? So many podcasts out there. And when I was starting this, I was thinking, okay, there are a lot of commercial real estate podcasts, right? There are a lot of people talking commercial real estate. Real estate, you have millions, okay? But I say even commercial real estate, you have a bunch of, you know, those very respected podcasts and shows that are talking about this. But then I said something that exactly what you just, you know, spoke about. I said, I'll bring myself, meaning people, okay, they hear real estate. I'll talk real estate. It's me talking real estate. I'll do it my way. I'll do it the way I want to talk about. And I think that's awesome. Tell me something. Yeah. Okay, now you have a real you have a show, you have something going on, and it's getting busy, because I know as we call it takes one to know one. You know, and I see how much it takes. And the only way you started it is because of the pandemic. I mean, you wouldn't. I don't know if you would have thought about without that situation. That's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. I want to ask you a challenging question because this question is something I'm asking myself. Okay, because at the end of the day, it takes really a long time. Some people, it would take them a little short of a time, right? But for most people, it will take a longer time to get a podcast to become like a real source of income and stuff like that. We still have our businesses, and we enjoy what we do here. Okay, we enjoy what we do out there. We enjoy what we do in here. But here's the big question: once the world is back, and the world will be back, what do you think will be next in terms of podcasting?
For me personally, or just in general?
For you personally, and then tell us, what do you think will happen to the world?
So
love to hear that.
Yeah, for me personally, I am psyched for when we get back to in-person events because I can now use a platform that I spent a year building. This Morning Spotlight was almost a year now building, and use that as like another platform to go into some of these in-person events and see people that I've met just virtually sometimes. Other times it's people that maybe, like, because I'm still relatively new to the title insurance world, real estate world, I don't have like very long standing connections. Mine are, there only can be like a max of 3.5 years of people that I, have experiences with. But I've had people on the show that are just, more experienced, more tenured in the real estate industry. And maybe in a real in-person event before COVID started, I might not be able to just like walk up and throw my business card in their face and start talking to them because it just doesn't work that way. But now maybe they've come on the show. Maybe I go to that event now and they recognize me, or they see me and we start talking, and then they introduce me to their friends. So I'm really excited. And I think that this is going to be something that happens across the board with like a lot of people like you and some other people that I know that have done, like, really put the effort and time into building a virtual platform. Because people want to come on our shows to talk to our audiences, to get their messages out and show that they know things about real estate or whatever. So now I get on this platform and I can talk to these people in person and, marry that with the virtual world too. So I'm very excited being able to connect the two. So maybe I have to spend a little less time recording episodes and maybe budget my time a little bit better to make sure that I'm, not like I'm getting out there and doing what I need to do on the sales end and going to, those events that I mentioned earlier. But, now I have two different things that I can help get my name and my voice out there. Because that's really the only reason why I started this, was I needed to keep my face in front of people so that people didn't forget about me. And I know it seems like it's hard that people would forget about me, but that's just the nature of the business. I wanted to keep me in their face. You might get sick of me, but I'm not going anywhere. So that's kind of how I do it. So I'm really excited with what's going to happen in the future, because without what happened in 2020, I would not have this show. So I would still be doing the same things that I've been doing since the very beginning, which have worked somewhat, but now I think it's just going to accelerate that into like a second gear, maybe third gear.
First of all, what I want to tell you is, first of all, it's amazing. And I think that everyone who's listening, everyone who's watching, listening, it's just how the world changed and what do you do with it? It's about you. It's about us. What we do with our time, what we're going to do with it. And you did an amazing thing. I want to ask you something. You're interviewing a lot of real estate people, right? A lot of, particularly, I guess, commercial real estate people and all kind of people. But let's get back into the commercial real estate arena.
Yeah.
All the people that you're interviewing, what did you particularly learn about the industry out of talking? Because we learn a lot out of talking to all these people.
Yeah.
What did you learn? What is your takeout from talking to all these about the industry out of talking to all these people?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. So this is going to be like kind of a cop-out answer, but I'm going to say, because I did not have a background in real estate before I started with the title insurance stuff, I got into this being pretty narrow-minded. Like, title insurance is what I do, so I don't need to know much about anything else. Then I start opening up this dialogue with people and finding out more about residential markets, commercial markets, 1031 exchanges, commercial real estate property taxes, all these different things that I knew were part of it, but I didn't know how much goes into, the industry itself. So like from start to finish, a deal has, I don't know how many different sets of hands that touch it, but a lot, So for me, it was eye-opening to learn the scope of how big this industry is and how many different types of people you have that work on how many different types of projects within the industry. So I think for me, that's been very eye-opening, and I've learned a lot, just because it's very educational for me, and it's easy to kind of get, stuck in like your niche. But once you start learning about other things, you're like, oh, wow, like maybe I can use this to help my business, or maybe I can, connect with this person. And maybe there's a networking opportunity there that can kind of help us both. So for me, it's just been a matter of learning like the scope of the industry as a whole. And that's just been super eye-opening.
So that's about the scope in the industry. But now the question is about the people. Okay.
Okay.
Is there anything about that you saw in the people that you interviewed that are in commercial real estate, something particularly about them that you learned that maybe is different from other places that you saw or you interviewed?
I think that the people, I'm going to say no. I really don't think that there is much of a difference between real estate people and like
they have a love for the industry.
They have a love for the industry. That's like literally where it ends. You could be an Olympic athlete or a commercial real estate broker. As long as you love what you do and you're aggressive and successful at it, and you want to be successful at it, you probably will be. It's just a matter of like your mindset and how you approach something. So for me, it's been interesting because I've gotten into some interviews, and I don't really like to call them interviews because I just like to have conversations with people. But I've gotten into some of these interviews, and I have people that I'm talking to that maybe like before I get on there, it was like when I interviewed Yishay Breslauer, who's like, a big name on LinkedIn in real estate, like my heart was like pumping, right? I was getting jacked up. I was, saying like to myself, I need to ask him good questions. I need to, do this. And then all of a sudden we get on a call, we start the Zoom link.
It's natural. Yeah.
It's natural. Like you're a regular guy. I'm a regular guy. I had people on here. It was like the same thing, like people that I think are just way above my station that I should not be talking to. But next thing you know, they get on here and they're just regular people. They're just looking to have some type of human connection that we've all pretty much been starving for basically like over a year. So for me, it's just been like that really what you said. They just have, whether they work in commercial real estate or they have a passion about commercial real estate, that to me, that's where it really ends, as far as like the differences between a lot of these people. Like, I think that as long as you're like a personable guy and you're yourself and authentic, and I think that authentic is a word that kind of gets muddied a little bit, especially like in the podcasting world and even like social media world. I think that people think a certain thing when they think authentic. I think you need to try to be authentic, but as long as you're just yourself, people respect that and they can recognize that and they feel comfortable talking to you. So for me, it's just been a matter of like being able to connect with people that way. So I don't think there's that much of a difference on the individual side. I think it's just, they just happen to work in commercial real estate. They happen to be an expert or very experienced in a certain topic. So let's talk. So I think that's been eye-opening for me too.
So you know what's interesting that I want to share with you a little story, a tiny story that I read years and years and years ago when I was getting inspired with commercial real estate at the time, about one of the moguls in real estate. His name is Hershey Friedman. He's from Canada, from Montreal, I think. Anyways, years later I met him and I got to meet some of the people who work for him, relatives that I got connected with. But it's very funny. There was an article, and whoever interviewed him on the article, in the article, there was like a line. You see the interviewer like asking the bold, right? He's asking him, because the guy is the Jewish Orthodox guy, just as I am. So the interviewer is asking him, how is your Jewish Orthodoxy coming into play when it comes to commercial real estate? And he answered a very good answer, and I loved it. And it's very similar to what you said. He said, our faith obviously affects our life, right? It affects everything, every aspect in our life, whatever your faith is or whatever you believe in. But it has nothing to do with the details of my business. Meaning, the faith is the faith, and if I have to check out a pro forma and see that IRR is 34 IRR and not 23 IRR, that has nothing to do with it. That has literally nothing to do with it. So it's exactly what you said, basically. People enjoy the aspect of business, just like one guy liked to play tennis and the other guy liked to play basketball. They could be similar in very other things and very different in in other things. So
Yeah.
that's I guess the way it is.
You know what I love about that too is like when you start connecting with people on this level. So the majority of my listeners, like I said before, they're like me. They're 25 to 35. They're young professionals. A lot of them that I, maybe they're friends that I know that listen to the show are either just getting involved in real estate or interested in starting to like invest in real estate, let's say. Then I have somebody on the show that let's just take your example. So you started as a teacher, then got involved in commercial real estate. So you had a certain path. I've had other people that have done a lot of different things before they got involved in real estate. Next thing you know, you're talking to this person and you're able to draw out those similarities and you're able to connect that guest with your audience, because people that listen, maybe they're not in a commercial real estate job right now, but they're interested in it. They're interested in what it can provide for them. And next, you start talking to the guest more, and the listener is saying like, oh man, that is me. Like I'm him too. Like I have these same experiences. I have the same emotions and feelings and thoughts on what I want my career path to look like. And I think that that's been something that's really cool because, like I said, it doesn't matter what you do right now. It's just, if you have a passion about something, whatever that may be, you're able to draw these connections and make these relationships with your guests, your audience, and then between your guests and your audience. And I think that that's been something that's been really cool for me to kind of see as I've gone.
I think that everything is relationships. It's unbelievable how much it is, right?
Yeah.
Everything is relationships. Because also you said that when you got out of this whole, when the pandemic hit and you got into all these, okay, how am I going to connect with people? And you got this whole online thing. It's exactly what I went through. How do I stay in touch with the world while the world is at home and quarantined and not where we are used to see them? So that's pivoting. I think it's a major thing.
Yep.
Let me ask you this. What would you recommend? What would you recommend to people in general who want to get into commercial real estate and were maybe not teachers, but are coaches, and they're thinking, okay, listen, I need a different career. I need to go and do whatever I need to tell them, and reflecting on your path.
I would say learn as much as you possibly can, and whatever way that you can. So I think for me, it was, kind of a wake up call when I first started. And like I mentioned, I would go to some of those earlier meetings because I don't really expect a lot of people to get into title insurance. I mean, that's, like it is what it is. It's an industry that maybe is not as, like I always say, it's like not the sexiest part of the real estate world, but it's a necessary part. So it is what it is. But I would just say whatever you're going to do, like if you are going to, and this goes for any job, but before you start it, you really have to like immerse yourself in it. Like when I first started, I was very, I felt kind of like I didn't really know what I was doing. I felt very self-conscious about the way I would kind of sell. I wasn't a salesperson before this, even though I had recruited for the baseball programs that I worked for. I wasn't a sales guy. I wasn't a title expert. So I would go to these meetings and I would be so uncomfortable with myself. And then I was almost very wishy-washy on the whole job. So I was like, maybe I can do some baseball lessons on the side to make a couple extra bucks. Maybe I could do this. So I wasn't immersing myself in the role. And then eventually I kind of had that moment where I said to myself, dude, you just got to go for it. Like if you're going to do this job, if you want to see if this job is actually for you, you need to put yourself in. You need to go 100% all in, dive in head first, because that's the only way that you're either going to be successful and figure out if you like it. Because if you don't, if you're just kind of like half in, half out, you're never gonna know. So
right, wishy-washy is not the solution.
Right,
you got to be all in. Right,
all in, and that would be my recommendation. So if you are someone, it doesn't matter what profession you're coming from, or even if you're like a student and you're interested in commercial real estate, after you graduate from college, like when you get into that role, you have to. I mean, that's it. Like you have to pretend, even though there's always a plan B. So I think that takes the fear out of it. But you need to be willing to disregard plan B. You just need to go on plan A, and just go for it. Can't.
That's so interesting that you're saying that, because Napoleon Hill, sorry for interrupting, but Napoleon Hill, there's one recording of his from the early 1900s. Very interesting. He said, you don't need a plan B. Okay. What you need to know is what your goal is, where you're going, and to go that plan A, because that's the only plan you have. And if something goes wrong, you can always change your plan as long as your goal is right there. So
Right.
that's exactly what he said. Exactly. I like that. Tell
Yeah.
me something. I want to get back for something to the real estate aspect. I want to talk about, title insurance. Maybe it's a little gray, as you described it, but there's something cool about this, and I'll tell you what it is. When the market is doing deals, when people are doing deals, when they do acquisitions, then the title insurance spoke about this. The title insurance come into play, and people need to check the title. Okay. Now here's the question: from your perspective, you seeing clients coming your way, you see what's going on today. Where is the market going in terms of the types of deals that are coming your way now versus the types of deals that were coming your way pre-pandemic? The difference. Is there a difference?
Yes, there's more.
Size, asset class.
Yeah. As far as asset class, like, I mean, technically, I don't necessarily see what asset class some of these projects are. So I wouldn't be able to totally speak on that. I mean, I know that over the summer, especially here in New Jersey, residential real estate like totally popped, right? I know we're not talking about residential real estate, but that was a significant thing because it did kind of shape, how different office markets were going to look.
We talk about residential, multifamily mostly, but
yeah.
But I talk also about single family. Yeah, but
right.
in terms of the market wise, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, like if you start looking at like where people are migrating to and they're moving out of New York City, they're moving west into, even places around here. Like I'm in Morristown, New Jersey. So places like Morristown or Chatham or Madison or wherever, people we're moving west and kind of changing the landscape of what the future of like a big city like New York was going to look like, and with the way the office markets are going to be structured moving forward because with the whole work from home thing. So for me, on my end, last year saw a huge uptick in refis. Just because like the rates were so good, people wanted to take advantage of that. So for commercial residential, people were taking advantage of the refi rates. And then moving forward, like especially now, I mean, this time of year is always an interesting time of year because you do get there's not a lot of residential work that's going around right now, but as far as commercial work goes, you're seeing a slowdown normally at this time of year because people were trying to like pack stuff in at the end of the year normally, and then you have like some trickle over into the following year. So I am closing some deals that were opened last year on the commercial end. A lot of, maybe it's, I don't want to exactly say what it was, but like maybe it's like a multifamily type thing. Maybe it's a retail, like a, strip center or whatever it is. Some stuff that was closing from last year. And then moving forward, I mean, I think that there's going to be certain asset classes, like obviously like industrial here in New Jersey is always going to be strong. And I think it's just going to keep getting stronger. Certain things like retail is going to be interesting to kind of see how that shakes out. I think it's just accelerating some trends that I think we were seeing before, like pre-pandemic. Less big box, more service oriented type stuff, maybe more food service type stuff. But it's just interesting. Pharmacies, yeah. It's just interesting because like like I said, I live in Morristown. I live close enough to downtown that I can walk. There's a lot of shops and restaurants and stuff, and it's just been interesting to kind of see like how the downtown area of just take Morristown has changed. So like, Century 21, closed down, like they went out of business. So that was a big box department store here in town. And then a lot of the smaller shops have been able to kind of like weather the storm so far. I mean, some of the restaurants have had to close down, which is, bad. I mean, my favorite breakfast place had to close down, which was terrible. But yeah, it's just interesting to kind of see like how, the whole landscape has changed because of where people are now living. And I don't think that we're really going to see like the full effects of what COVID has had on the real estate market for at least, not this year, maybe not next year. It's going to take a while for this whole thing for the dust to settle on the whole COVID pandemic and how it affects real estate markets.
People don't have to pay. Right. Exactly. What I want to ask you is, when you look at your profile, you see so much NJ, New Jersey, right? You see New Jersey all over the place.
I got New Jersey right back here, yeah.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
And there's something about you in New Jersey. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, I'm born and raised in New Jersey. I am proud to be from New Jersey. I know New Jersey is always like the butt of jokes for people that don't really know what the state is all about, but I mean, it's a great place. I mean, like it has so much to offer.
There's so much. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, people think like, it's like just the Parkway or just, Newark or just, whatever it is, like the Jersey Shore. But you have like everything from the Jersey Shore all the way up to like where my parents live up in Sussex County, where it's like the country basically. And I think that it's just such a cool dynamic of people. And it's just, it's always been in a weird spot because it's like in between New York City and Philly. And that's been, like people always they work in New York City, Philly, and they live in New Jersey, whatever it is. But I'm happy to be from New Jersey. I like telling people that I'm from New Jersey because I think that it has helped shape my whole personality, my outlook on people and life and everything. And I just, I like to lean into I think what has helped me get to where I am. And I think just like the living in New Jersey, being around people from New Jersey is, Jersey strong, baby.
Tell me something. What's the quote unquote next generation of New Jersey? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So next generation of New Jersey was, so when I started selling title insurance, I was almost like I had like these big wide eyes, right? And I was like, why am I going to waste my time? And that sounds terrible, on like smaller shop attorneys or, developers with smaller deals. Like, why not just go for like the biggest fish that I possibly can try to go after? So I was calling on, maybe like a really experienced real estate partner at a big law firm, just as like an example. And like I mentioned before, title insurance is just built on relationships and service. So I kind of went into it, not realizing that the answer I was going to get from some of these professionals was going to be, listen, I've used the same title person for 25 years. I'm not going to just switch to you. And loyalty is very important to me and also just very important to the business. So I hope in 20 years that my clients that I have now say the same thing to the young hotshot title guy that calls them. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
But what really made me kind of shift my focus on who I was calling. So I started focusing on, maybe they're younger attorneys, younger developers, people that maybe aren't getting a lot of love from maybe a title person like me.
The up and coming generation.
The up and coming generation, right? So 3 years ago now, which is crazy to think about it, I started a LinkedIn group called The Next Generation of New Jersey, which was just going to be a group for young professionals. So we got it up to like 50 people in the span of, just a couple of weeks, which was cool. Then I started running some happy hours, you come, you pay for your own drinks, you network with the people that would be there. We would run those every couple months here in Morristown. And those were great. I mean, we would get like 15 to 20 people like every time we would run one. Awesome. It was a lot of this, like the same core group of people, but that's still good. I mean, that still helps you develop really good relationships with those people that I'm still friends with and networking partners and sometimes clients with today. And then fast forward that, and then eventually we started doing, a friend of mine, Brianna Stiers, who works for Rue Environmental Services. We put together some real estate focused events that were not next generation of New Jersey, but we called them business and brews events, where we would have real estate focused, we would kind of, run these larger gatherings of real estate professionals. And those two groups essentially were the catalyst behind starting those virtual networking events that we did back in March. So I had experience and like a group that I had in my back pocket, so to speak, that I was able to remobilize once the pandemic hit. And because there was a lot of respect and trust within that group, those were the people that initially kind of got that group rolling as far as like in the virtual world. So if I didn't have that before, it might have taken the virtual thing a little bit longer to kind of flesh out and grow, but I already had like that base, that like core group of people that I was really tight with. And that's how we started the virtual stuff. So the Next Generation of New Jersey is what I call those Tuesday night events, just because that's what, it started as. Like, that was like my baby, my first ever networking group that I had ever started. That's how it started 3 years ago, which is crazy to think that it's been 3 years. But it's just so cool to think like we built that from nothing. Like, it did not exist before we put it together and then started to grow it.
You know what, Mike, you're a man of a lot of stuff, and that's very cool and very interesting. Listen, I want to wrap it up. And what I want to say is, first of all, before we say goodbye, tell everybody where they can find you and where they can find you, how they can find you. First of all, I put the links all over, so you guys can see it all the way above and the bottom. Depends where you guys are looking at or listening to. But tell us a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Morning Spotlight, the show itself, can be found on any platform that you listen to podcasts. So, I mean, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio. So if you listen to any of those platforms, you search The Morning Spotlight with Mike.ham, you will find me. I have a website for the show called themorningspotlight.com. I'm obviously here all over LinkedIn. I try to post like all the time and engage with as many people as I possibly can on here. My name is Michael.ham on here. That's pretty easy to remember. And then as far as, contacting through email, whatever, michael.ham@ctt.com. And that's the best way to connect with me, just because, that's where I do most of my stuff. That's where Yishay and I connected on through email. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows. And if you have title questions or some deals to throw my way, that would be the place to do it. So just want to make that extra plug at the very end.
Awesome. So thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to put you in the wait room. If you could wait for a second, we're going to schmooze a little bit after we get off the line off the show. I want to say goodbye to everybody and say what we call the closing remarks. So thanks, Mike.ham, for being with us. It was awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, before we close, I want to tell you that, first of all, I have the 7-day CRE challenge. You guys check it out. I put the link also below. Check out Mike's links. As I said, the phone number is also there, so you can reach out to him there. Again, going back to the 7-day CRE challenge, what is it? It's 7 days that we're actually helping people to understand what is commercial real estate. And we have the first day free, so you guys can just click the link and go and do the free thing to see if it's for you. If it's commercial real estate, if commercial real estate is something that you want to do, if it's something that you want to get into, that is a part of it. And what else? I want to wish you a beautiful weekend. You guys enjoy your weekend. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you guys on Monday. And on Monday, we have a very special show. I'm going to let you know. Take care of yourselves, guys. Have a beautiful weekend. Take care.